Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Joni Ogg, and on behalf of travelprofessionalnews.com, homebasedtravelagent.com, and findahosttravelagency.com, we welcome you to today's webinar. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to be with us. We're thrilled to welcome our speaker today, Dave Myfoffer, who is joining us again. Dave is a great speaker. I know those of you who have been on before, you know that. So we're in for a fun ride today. He's the Vice President of Sales and Engagement at Travel Planners International, otherwise known as TPI, and is a seasoned professional with over 2 decades of experience in the travel industry. So prior to joining TPI, he held some key positions at renowned companies such as Celebrity Cruises and Colette Vacations and Enterprise Rent-A-Car, where he excelled in sales, account management, and leadership roles. He's got a proven track record of leadership, building and maintaining strong relationships and prospecting new business opportunities and delivering engaging presentations and trainings, which you are about to enjoy today. With a bachelor's degree in recreation and leisure services management from East Stroudsburg University of Pennsylvania, he brings a unique blend of industry expertise and educational qualifications to his role at TPI. So today's webinar topic is really going to be a fun one. I know that this is something that has definitely gained a lot of interest. We've got a ton of people that have registered for this, which is wonderful. And the topic is how to find affinity groups, a hunter's guide. So also just to let you know, two very lucky attendees are going to win 30-minute consultations with Dave. So be sure, listen carefully for your chance to win at the end of the presentation. And additionally, one more lucky attendee will win a $50 Amazon gift card, courtesy of Travel Professional News. So do remember, folks, you are all muted, but we do welcome your questions and we encourage your questions. Just put them in at any time and we'll get to them at the end of Dave's presentation. And you put those over in the question area that you see on the right-hand panel of your screen. And when the presentation's over, we'll take as many questions as we can. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to my friend so he can get started. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, Joni, thank you for having me today. I am super excited about today's topic and all things affinity groups. So thanks for having me. All right, so let's dive right into it. And first and foremost, everybody, I'm coming to you today all about affinity groups. This is a hunter's guide. This is Dave's hunter's guide. This overall topic for me is near and dear to my heart because this is really how I jumped right into the travel business and the travel industry. A big part of it was working in group business and specifically finding and cultivating new affinity group business. So today I'm going to walk you through, a bit about the story as far as what affinity groups are, how to find them, the ins and outs of affinity groups. For those of you who already work with groups, there may be some really great key reminders for you, or even some tidbits or some tips along the way that will hopefully help strengthen what you already do with your affinity group business. For those of you who are new to affinity groups, maybe you're looking to dive into this sector of business, or you don't work with groups. Maybe you don't work with groups just yet, and this is something a bit of a launching pad as you prepare for end of 2024 and or your start with 2025. So today's all about affinity groups and a hunter's guide. Really, this comes from years and years of experience, as I touched upon. This is a hunter's mentality, which I'll go over, regarding finding affinity group business and, like I said, cultivating it and ultimately succeeding in this realm of your business. So let's get after it. To start things off, what is an affinity group, right? Many of you out there, if you're new to the industry or just looking to get into group business, you may scratch your head and say, well, a group is a group is a group. Predominantly in the industry, especially on the cruise side, there's things known as prospective groups. I like to say, spray and pray type of mentality where it's just you advisors in some cases, block group space and then they just promote it to the masses. And, there can be some great price advantages there, a variety of things in regards to just blocking group space and perks that you get by blocking group space early on. But really, in the grand scheme of things, the materialization rate of a typical promotional group is not that great because, again, it's I say spray and pray. It's put it out there and see who's going to come along on that trip. When we're talking about affinity groups, okay, an affinity group is a group of people linked by a common interest or purpose. Right? I'll read that again. A group of people linked by a common interest or purpose. Think about that. Okay? We have groups of people. Think about people in your lives, your family, right? What do they have all in common? Their family, many times by blood relatives, whatever it may be. Your friends. Typically, you hang out with people who are like-minded. Typically, I have a few friends. I'm sure we always have a few friends or relatives that maybe aren't so much like-minded, but you get my point, right? Like-minded individuals, common interest or purpose. This could be on the personal level, friends and family, but also, when we're talking about affinity groups, we're talking about, networking groups, business organizations, nonprofits, guys groups, girls groups, civic organizations. I mean, there's a ton, and I'm going to share with you some really great lists, which are showcase some good examples of it. But this slide here that you're looking at, here's some group pictures, and you think back to how we just defined it. People linked by common interest or purpose. Here you have people who love the outdoors and mountain climbing, maybe. Others, you have golf groups, right? A variety of sports type of groups that you have there. You have business and corporate groups, meeting and incentive style groups, a variety of things like that, where like-minded individuals or have some kind of common interest or purpose are traveling together. And I have news for you. There are thousands and thousands of them out there. Plenty of fish in the sea. So let's take this the next step further regarding affinity groups. And here on this next slide, you'll see some examples of, affinity groups and some that are out there. Some of these you might say, yep, I knew about those. Other ones you might say, wow, I never really thought of those kinds of groups. Or, the way I like to look at it is, if there is a hobby out there, if there is something that somebody likes to do in their free time, there are thousands and thousands of others who like to do that same type of activity, whether it be the wine and foodie style groups, golf groups, pickleball, right? Pickleball has been the big buzz these last couple of years. Quilting, knitting, various hobbyist style groups. You have alumni groups. And I'm not just saying, when you think of alumni groups, many times my mind has always gone to, college, university. But think about all those other schools and organizations that might have alumni and retiree type of groups. Gamers, bridge players, various card players, right? Chambers of commerce, fraternal organizations, fraternities, sororities, school groups, kids groups, but retirees. I mentioned before alumni groups, but then think about retirees. And on here, we note places like police, fire department, places like that. But, many, many large corporations, they may have some kind of retiree group. So I challenge you, and I'm going to challenge you a few times today to think about yourself, think about your family, your mom, your dad, your relative, your sister, brother, whoever it may be, and your friends. And I can almost guarantee every person listening to this call can identify at least one group, organization, nonprofit, corporation, whatever it may be, someone that that is tied to an affinity style group or potential group where travel may be a great thing for them, and why not book that trip with you? So there's again a million others you can really look out there, but I did want to share some of those examples with you. Okay, where do you find them? Right. The next question is where. We've identified what an affinity group is. We've identified some examples of what they are. Where do you find them? So I'm old. I'm raise a hand. I can't see you anyway, but right, think about it. Think about yourself. Okay, I want to get into group business, or I want to expand my group business. Where's one of the first places you can look? And it's our good old friend Google. I said before, I am old. Back in the day, and Joni, if you're still listening, which I'm sure you are, I don't know about you, but the Yellow Pages was my family's best friends. Joni, were you a Yellow Pages fan?
I hate to admit it because that ages
Right?
us, but nonetheless, yeah, that's how we used to do stuff. I'm sure there's people on this webinar that know exactly what you're talking about. Glad we don't have to do
Uh,
that anymore, though.
yeah, you need a plumber. You want to find a local college or school. You just go to the Yellow Pages. That was the Google back in the day, regarding contacts and phone numbers and things. But in case, happy to say we don't use the Yellow Pages anymore. And a lot of times you could use your best friend Google. And I use this again because people of all ages, different demographics. A lot of you on the call who might be brand new to the industry, or you've been in the industry for a long time, you're most likely familiar with Google. And this example here on the screen gives you an idea of, okay, this is just an example. So, my name is Dave. I have Dave's travel agency, and now I want to develop my group business. So one of the things I'm going to do, let me find out who might be traveling. I'm going to start off with colleges and universities. Let's just say that's an area I have a friend who's a college professor. This is an area I'm a bit familiar with, and now I want to dive into it. So why not on Google type in, search bar, colleges near 11566. That's actually my zip code. I live in Merrick, New York. So when I put that in on Google, boom, you're going to have some search results come up. And you'll see here, this is just a snippet of the map that may come up depending on your search. But right there, you see Nassau Community College, North Merrick United Free School District, across the universe, Briarcliff College. So, there's a lot of different colleges and universities just in my area alone. But here's a great first step of finding out colleges and universities in my area that now I want to start diving into a little bit more and find out, hey, maybe they have a travel program. Maybe they have an alumni group that goes away every year. So this is that hunter's mentality. We are hunting and finding, and these things take time, but Google can certainly be your best friend. Okay, little word popped up now, perplexity. Let's get into the world of AI, right? Perplexity now is highly recommended over Google. And I say that because you can get a lot more information, you can get a lot more detailed by using perplexity.ai. You could go on there, it's a free tool. Now you could do a little bit more deeper dives. So again, if you like Google, if that's your thing, you could dive deeper in there, and you could actually get some great contact information for colleges, universities, nonprofits. You go down that list of different affinity groups. But Perplexity may take it a next step further. So I've been turned on by Perplexity, and here's one of the reasons why. So on Perplexity, and this is another example, at the top of the page on the right-hand side of your screen, I may type in something like this. To start off, I may say, show me a list of 15 nonprofit organizations in the Orlando area. So it's going to pull up 15 examples. I may take it a second step and say, go ahead now, okay, so you have this list here of 15 nonprofit organizations: Save the Manatee Club, the Children's Home Society of Florida, Orlando Regional Realtor Association, Center for Independent Living, Sharing Center, Opera Orlando. So 15 examples of nonprofit organizations in Orlando. Next step is, now, this is on Perplexity, now show me nonprofit organizations that promote group travel. Fish where the fish are, right? Trying to turn something out of nothing can be a long and daunting task that doesn't get you very far. So on Perplexity now, when I'm doing some research and searching for a potential new group business, I may type in, now show me nonprofit organizations that promote group travel. We're getting to the point, cutting the fat. And now a little gold nugget popped up. This is something I put in there. This didn't come up on Perplexity, but that golden nugget on the bottom and those two last lines of any paragraph you're looking at on the right-hand side, this says, examples of nonprofits that have done successful fundraising group trips include the Virginia Opera, Richmond Symphony, and Virginia Repertory Theater. So, okay, maybe, again, this is now going to the Virginia area. Whatever it may be, the point of this example and exercise to show you these tools at your disposal will give you some great answers and some potentially great leads for you to expand your group business. So I'm going to read those two lines again in the bottom with the gold nuggets. Examples of nonprofits that have done, not they might do, not maybe you'll have luck with. These are examples of nonprofits that have done successful fundraising group trips. And then there's a list of a few of them. So I share this with all of you because, again, I joked around about the yellow pages, using Google back in the day. There was a lot more digging, a lot more cold calling, picking up the phone, reaching out, sending out emails, whatever it may be. Now with some of these new tools, especially Perplexity and other AI tools, you're going to even be able to do a little bit more homework and research to get closer to the wins, closer to those groups who might be doing travel already, which will be more inclined to possibly speak to you about their next trip. And that's perplexity.ai. Okay. I want to talk to you about antennas up. Okay. Going back to, and over time, the hunter's mentality when it comes to affinity groups, and this being your hunter's guide. So when I say antennas up, think about it this way. You need to, and this over time, it's like any habit. You need to make this a constant practice where it just becomes second nature, right? So now let's just say you're getting into it. You've been using Google and Perplexity. You're starting to look for local groups in your area. So you can start there and start to hopefully find some groups that want to do group trips, or they have been doing them, but maybe they use some other travel advisor. They haven't used you before. So what more can you do? And I say, go ahead and look to begin the building of your habit of antennas up. Now, antennas up is always keeping your eyes open, your ears open for opportunity. And I say this because sometimes I know even with myself, you work your Monday through Friday, you work 7 or 8 days in a row because this is the travel industry. And now you're tired, and now all you want to do is go back home and hang with your family. You want to go to that birthday party, that barbecue, that whatever it might be, right? Antennas up is a philosophy of just keeping your ears and eyes open. And when I say antennas up, I'll use an example of this. So this is going back some years ago. Worked for a tour operator, and it was an early morning. I believe it was a Wednesday morning. I was about 2 hours from my house. It was the morning. I went to the diner to grab coffee and a quick breakfast before I had my first appointment, which was at 9 a.m. So I'm in the diner. It's around 7:50 and 7:30 a.m. in the morning. It's a Wednesday. It's not super busy that early in the morning on a weekday. But I go and I sit down, and literally in a pretty much what was almost an empty diner, there's a table not too far from me that while I'm there, it goes from 2 older gentlemen, and it became a table of 10 older gentlemen that they had the appearance of being retired, older, gray hair, a good group. They were sharing a lot of laughs. I was sitting off to the side doing a little bit of work while I was having my coffee and a quick bite to eat. And I'm sitting there and kind of keeping one ear open. Antennas were up. And I'm just hearing them laugh a lot. They sound like they were sharing stories and just having their morning coffee. I don't know if it was like their weekly meetup, but I noticed one of the gentlemen, when they walked past me to go sit at the table, he had a sweatshirt on. And what was that sweatshirt? It actually said in big, bold letters up the top, it said Alaska. And there was a picture of a bald eagle and a picture of a grizzly bear. So, of course, I saw him walk past me, and in my head, right away, I thought, okay, right away, quick impression. Older gentleman, probably retired, Alaska sweat. He's probably been to Alaska unless somebody gave that to him as a gift, but okay. So I had a couple of clues. I had my antennas up, but I said, okay, Alaska, travel, older gentleman, retired. He's sitting with a group of other older gentlemen. Maybe this is a group. I don't know. So what did I do before I left the diner that day? I stood up, gathered my stuff, and just before I left, I politely just walked over and said, they were all laughing, still telling stories. I said, hey, guys, and I looked at the one guy with the shirt on. I go, when did you go to Alaska? And he's like, jokingly, he says, well, who's asking? And they all laughed. And I go, how you doing? My name's Dave. I'm like, I actually work in the travel business. I noticed your sweatshirt, and I actually love Alaska, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, by me keeping my antennas up and engaging in a fun, playful conversation about travel, that led me to a 22-person group to Italy with the travel agency I was working with, selling it through my tour operator. So long story short, because my antennas were up and I engaged in a fun and playful conversation about travel, I wasn't the used car salesman, breaking out my laptop and trying to give them the super hard sales pitch, but I just spoke to them about what they all love to speak about, which was travel. Asked them questions about who went with them to Alaska, how many of them went, was it all of them? I know like half the group that was there ended up being on that same trip. But long story short, it turned into a group for me and my travel advisor partner, a group going to Italy that following year, just because I engaged and created that connection, that network. So antennas up is a big part of any hunter's mentality. Okay. Have you ever heard of Always Be Closing, right? I believe that's an old movie, Glengarry Glen Ross, and Always Be Closing, ABC. So I like to say ABH, Always Be Hunting. Always be hunting. I spoke to all of you and shared with you a little bit about the antennas up method and, creating that to be a habit, right? Always just keep that and look to have these fun, playful conversations about travel that could lead you into big commissions, some big group trips. So antennas up, keep your ears and eyes open all the time. Making the time. This is not something that happens overnight or something, once a week you can make a phone call to somebody that might have a group or it might be an affinity group. This is not something where every now and then you want to speak to somebody. This is a habit you must get into. You must have a plan of attack, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and make the time and a concentrated effort to improve and grow your affinity group business. So make the time. Power of the internet and your phone. So I shared, Google examples, perplexity.ai. We'll get into a few more things regarding how to close business and some things you can do to really stay on top of it. But I say the power of the internet and your phone, as part of your plan, making sure you are doing your research and your homework, but also picking up the phone to call these prospects, to reach out to some of these groups. Now more than ever, you're not always going to have these face-to-face interactions. So I encourage all of you to, when you are planning to look for groups, dedicate time towards the Google stuff, the Perplexity stuff, all those things. And then once you have those lists, and I'll share with you a little bit about hit lists, but making those phone calls and call outs. And the last bullet point here is, and I touched on this, travel is fun. Let's keep it that way. Nobody loves a pushy salesperson. Nobody, typically loves a used car salesman mentality or that stereotype. At the end of the day, we are all in sales, right? We are selling travel. We are selling fun, right? I think you look on social media, especially Facebook, and every other post is about somebody on vacation. They are in a destination other than their home many of times. The big three things are travel, kids, and pets. That's like Facebook: travel, kids, and pets. And many times it's like food, right? Food, you just take a picture of their food and their plates. I still do that sometimes. But travel is fun. Let's keep it that way. These conversations that were happening really blends to more of a casual conversation where you could still be doing some fact finding and trying to learn more about somebody or a group to see what the potential is. So having those fun conversations about an amazing trip to Alaska. Last year, I brought this group to Australia and New Zealand. My family, my friends, they absolutely loved it. We are looking now to do national parks next year. Great. Let's talk more. You're a travel advisor? Fantastic. Can you get me a deal? All that stuff. Travel is fun. Let's keep it that way. We don't have to be, the used car salesman or even think of ourselves that way. Never think of yourself that way. Okay. Let's talk about qualifying, okay? Share with you a little bit about, what an affinity group is, how to find them and do some research looking for them. Now let's just say, you found a potential group, but you don't know so much about them. So now's the interview. Now's your time to find out more and more about this group and to figure out, like a doctor prescribes something, you are about to prescribe the perfect vacation or the perfect no, because it might not be worth your time. So you must, and we must always be qualifying your next affinity group and groups. Saying no to a potential affinity group is okay, and it's just as important as saying yes in many cases. So let's get into it. Here's some examples, okay? Here are some questions that can really help get you down and dirty, get you exactly where you need to go and be in order to prescribe this group's next trip to see if it's a match. Question number one, and there are so many more questions, but I'm going to share with you a few. Tell me about your past group trips. So tell me about your past group trips. Now, right, what is the best predictor of future events? Many of times it's going to be past performance or past events, things that a group has already done. So when you ask somebody, Mr. Smith, tell me about your past group trips. Mr. Smith might say, well, we just got back from Italy last year. The year before that, we did a cruise with about 150 retirees. Next year, we're going to India, actually. It's not as big of a group. We only have 60 people going, but we're doing a tour of India. You see where I'm getting at with this? But tell me about your past group trips. Now it's an open-ended question. Mr. Smith, whoever that is, going to share with you what they've done. Could take you in another direction, right? Where he says, well, I've never done a group trip. That's a big red flag. We'll get into some of those red flags later on. But tell me about your past group trips. Here's another one. After you've established that they do travel together, a question like this. Why does your group love traveling together? Sounds like a fun little playful question, right? Why does your group love traveling together? Well, we all love each other. Well, we like always traveling as a family. I don't know, right? A million different answers you can get. But what more does this tell you? Why does your group love traveling together? This is going to tell you really a little bit of everything. It's a fact-finding mission. Maybe because they love taking pictures and sharing their stories after their trip. Why does your group love traveling together? Oh, we love good laughs and good food. Okay, mental note, good laughs and good food. Maybe now you're going to look at, I don't know, maybe a popular cruise line that offers some really good culinary experiences. Right? Cruises are typically fun, having a blast, doing a little bit of everything. Maybe they mentioned being a foodie. Okay, maybe we're doing something more with Europe and some of these amazing destinations that are out there. So why does your group love traveling together? Ooh, adventure? Okay, maybe now we're doing something to Alaska, somewhere else that provides some great shore excursions. So why does your group love traveling together? Okay, here's another great qualifying question. How do you make your final decision when it comes to choosing your next group trip? How do you make your final decision when it comes to choosing your next group trip? Let's think about this one. Okay, you are talking to, just an example, you're talking to Mr. Smith, who he is the president of a retiree association. Right? So Mr. Smith, he's the president. You ask him, how do you make your final decision when it comes to choosing your next group trip? He may answer you in a few different ways. He may say, I make all of the decision. Wherever I want to go, the group goes. Bingo. You're in front of the decision maker. But Mr. Smith might also come back with, well, I like to collect 5 different ideas, and then I bring this to our board of 12 other members, and then out of the 12 members, 6 people make a vote. Like, you see where I'm going with that? This is going to give you some great insight into the decision-making process, along with how long this decision may take and how you need to navigate that. Okay, so how do you make your final decision when it comes to choosing your next group trip is going to give you much more insight other than just maybe the one-word answer or just the one-sentence answer. It's going to give you insight in regards to how that group works. Okay, here's another one. Tell me about how you promote your group trips. Tell me about how you promote your group trips. I like this one, right? Because this is now going to give you some information regarding their reach, just how many people can they put your trip in front of, how many people you may be able to get connected to. Now you could be the booking travel advisor for everybody in that group. Isn't that tasty? Maybe it's just this group, but now what that can turn into. So tell me about how you promote your group trips is going to help blend to, how much they're bought in as well, how many different ways of marketing the trip. A lot of information can come to you that will help predict the success of this trip. And I like this one. Again, these are just, 5 examples. There's so many more questions you can ask, but this one here, where in the world have you ever wanted to go? Where in the world have you ever wanted to go? And I love this one because now you will hopefully be speaking to the Pied Piper, the group leader, whoever it may be, and he or she is going to tell you one of their bucket list destinations. Maybe it's somewhere they've always wanted to go, or him and his wife, or the woman you're speaking to and her husband, or whoever it is. Where in the world have you ever wanted to go? And now you can work with them to earn that tour conductor, to earn the free trip for themselves. And next thing you know, they are going to France, they are going to Norway, they're going to South Africa, they're going to that bucket list trip that they've always wanted to go to, possibly for free, because you are helping them. And now, because they know they're going to a destination they've always wanted to go to, they'll be that much more motivated to promote the trip. How great is that? And these are just, again, 5 initial qualifying questions that really give you a ton and a wealth of information. It's okay to say no. As I read through those questions just now in that last slide, I am getting excited. I don't even have a group. I'm speaking with all of you. I don't have a group in front of me that I'm qualifying, but I do get excited. And it's not always easy to say no to a potential group because you want to see what happens, right? You get excited, but here's a few things and a few red flag warnings when it comes to groups and when you're qualifying them. You come to find out the group you're speaking with has never traveled together before. Never. They might have 5,000 members in their organization, club, group, whatever it is, but they've never done a group trip together. Maybe they don't like each other outside of their group meetings. I don't know. But the fact that they've never done a group trip together, that could be a big red flag, right? Because kicking off a travel program or trip can be a tough thing. I'm not saying don't approach it or don't start to work with this group, but buyer beware. Put that in your back pocket and keep that in the back of your mind, saying, okay, first time go around, let's see where this goes. It's okay to say no. Remember, now you have a group and they do trips and travel together, but it's the shorter bus trips. I'm here in the Northeast, so maybe it's the 1 or 2 day trips to Atlantic City, short weekend trips. Maybe it's a 1 day trip where they're leaving at 6 a.m. and walking in the door at 8 p.m. on the same day. These are red flag warnings because, yes, they do these very short trips together. But now if you're looking to try to convince them to do a group cruise, to get on a plane, to do something longer than 3-4 days, whatever it may be, these are red flag warnings. So they may be interested, but just beware. If they have not done these big trips before, it might be an uphill battle. The group leader is eager but scattered. Okay, the group leader is eager but scattered. This can be a tough one, right? You meet with somebody, their eyes are wide open, they're excited about it. They've always wanted to go to the California coast, right? Maybe you're on the East Coast. They've always wanted to do that West Coast trip. Maybe if you're on the West Coast, they've always wanted to do the fall foliage and maybe some cruises up in the Northeast or New England area. But the group leader is excited, but maybe they're all over the place and they can't get their act together, and you had to call them back 3 times just to have a sit down with them. And then you left some information or you emailed them information and they lost it and you had to send it again, and all the signs are pointing to them being a little bit scattered. That's going to be a tough uphill battle. And the group leader may lead you on and egg you on, but beware, because if that starts up in the beginning or the beginning conversations, who knows what's going to happen when you really start promoting a group trip, and down the road you need to collect credit cards or whatever other information for the group. So beware of that one. Okay, you meet with a group leader who is on board with promoting a group, but he or she is not passionate about travel. So they might have their act together, but you know what, Dave? I've never been on a cruise. I'm scared of flying. I don't like to travel so much. But yes, we will promote the group. We'll promote the trip. That could be a tough one, right? If your lead person is not passionate about travel or doesn't have much interest, that's a red flag. You need to have cheerleaders. You need to have quarterbacks. You need to have a go-getter person who is excited to promote the trip. They don't have to go on it all the time. They don't. But you need somebody excited and passionate about promoting the trip and travel. You might meet someone also, no sense of how to promote, who to promote it to. I say that tire kicking procrastinators, right? People who are give you the runaround. They say, okay, I like these 3 ideas. Maybe we'll do all right, Dave. I want to do maybe Hawaii. I want to do Hawaii, Italy, or your Best of China tour. Hawaii, Italy, or Best of China. What are we talking about here? Let's narrow it down. Right there and then, red flag warning. And they might sound excited about it, but they obviously don't have really good grasp as far as what they want to do and what their group might be interested in. So making sure you're keeping your ears and eyes open regarding this qualification stage. And ultimately, it's okay to say no. It is okay to say no. Every good hunter has a plan. And I also say every good gatherer has a plan, right? For those of you not into hunting, but maybe gathering. But hunters and gatherers, you must have a plan in order to be a success. I said before, make the time. Schedule time to work on affinity groups. Make it your New Year's resolution, whatever it's going to be, right? Coming up, we're here heading towards the end of the year. Maybe you're going to start this in November, December, January, whatever it is. Schedule time to work on affinity groups, right? Finding and identifying some possible groups. Setting up time to make those calls, email people, whatever it may be, right? An email is a lot less personal than a phone call where they can hear your voice. But finding a way, what are you going to do to schedule time to work on affinity groups and strategize? Think about your niche, okay? It goes back to low-hanging fruit. For me, I had lots of connections and tie-ins with nonprofit organizations. I am a sports guy. I'm a self-proclaimed foodie, although it doesn't even have to be high-end food. But foodie, I'm a craft beer lover guy. So if I hear about any groups that are, that food, wine, craft beer type theme, if I hear of nonprofit organizations that possibly travel, that sparks my interest, and that gets me excited, and that's going to roll into the groups that I work with or pursue. So I always ask our advisors, what niche are you part of? Do you have a tie-in with? Do you have connections with? What do you get excited about? Because those ones you're going to go more all in on. Think about your immediate reach, right? Friends, family, networks. One of the more successful groups I had back in the day was a nonprofit organization that my mom actually had left, but she still had some connections with, and I was able to make some phone calls. And that turned into a raving success for about 4 years running of some really big, solid groups. But think about that, right? Friends, family, networks, the whole antenna's up. It's coming to the holiday season. You might be hanging out with friends and families at holiday parties, whatever it is. You meet somebody that walks past you and they have that Royal Caribbean Cruises hat on, or, that they say, oh, I just got back. I was on a 10-day tour of Greece, let's say. You get in those conversations, fact find, have a fun conversation and dive a little deeper. You never know what you're going to find. And make it, a habit. That's with all of these things. The more times you do it, the more it's going to become, second nature for you, just that it just comes up and you're always looking. And then as far as the plan goes, create a hit list. Ladies and gentlemen, a hit list. I'm going to introduce this to you if you don't do anything like this already. This is an example, and all of these phone numbers and email addresses, they are fake. Okay, they are fake. But the point of the matter is to share with you an example of what a hit list looks like. This is something I had done back in the day when I was, again, working with travel advisors who were consistently looking for groups. So this example here, and I implore you, I ask all of you, if you're looking to get into group business and affinity group hunting, start a list, something like this, okay? This list here, and I'm not going to get into all the details that you see, but this gives you an example, right? It's an organized list. I just did a simple thing on Excel. What is the name of the group and organization? What category do they fall into? And I'm looking left to right here, everybody. Who is the main contact at that organization or group? What is their phone number? What is their email address? When is the last time I've contacted them or established any kind of contact? And then any kind of notes. So screenshot this, take a picture with your phone. This would be your working list of potential groups. For me, I would look at this thing weekly, if not daily, depending on what I had go on, and I would work the list. as soon as I either closed the deal and got a group booked, or if I finally got to the point where they were annoyed by me, or they just simply weren't traveling anymore, they were a done deal, then I obviously would remove them from the list. So this, to me and for me, was a huge, helpful resource and something that I created so that I could track all these different groups I was looking into. Just a little something there. We call this the hit list. Make sure you make your own hit list. All right, everyone, in closing, I want to wrap things up with giving you all some homework. And you could feel free to do your homework in class. You can do this right now if things come to mind. But I challenge all of you to write down 3 potential affinity groups that you know of who you will call over the next 2 weeks. Write down on a piece of paper or on your notes on your phone or on your computer. What's the name of a local group, right? Right now I can think of, a local church me and my family go to here. I can think of a few colleges that are nearby. I can think of, I know there's some 55 plus communities that are out east. So anyway, think about your area. Think about some groups. And I challenge you to think about 3 affinity groups that might travel. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but this will get you started. Write down the name. Write down the date that you are going to call them on or call them by. And dream about how much money, how much commission that might bring you. A 55 plus community, maybe they have a travel club. Maybe right there, you're going to be able to sell 50 cabins on a cruise next year, or 40 spots on an amazing tour over in Europe. But I challenge all of you, write down 3 right now, or when you hang up this phone, your homework tonight before you go to bed. 3 affinity groups you're going to call in the next 2 weeks. Hopefully you call them sooner. And that should get you started. All right, Joni, that is my story. I want to thank you and everybody who have tuned in. I know we have some prizes to give away. My contact information is up there on the screen now, and it's been an ultimate pleasure. I get charged up speaking about affinity groups. So thank you, Joni, for your time, and thank you to everybody who's tuned in.
Hey, Dave, that was awesome. Thank you so much. So I just have to do a plug for Dave because Dave doesn't self-plug. So I know he's not a car salesman, obviously. So I just want you all to know Dave is with TPI, Travel Planners International. So I can give this plug, an amazing host agency program that they offer. And Dave would be the guy that you would reach out to if you were interested in perhaps finding more about their host agency program. So I encourage you to keep his contact information so you have that. All right. So now we'll go ahead and get to some of the questions we have, Dave. We got some questions for you.
Okay.
This first one is not really a question, but more just a comment, and a couple people had the same comment. So she says, my assumption with a group that has already done travel is that they have a travel agent already or someone who's helped them. Is that accurate? Or do most of them do it on their own? I think she's talking about your very beginning of the presentation when you talked about the businesses and getting involved in
Yeah.
that way.
No, that's a great question, and I say, speaking from experience, there's a couple of things here. So, of course, if a group has done a group trip before, they've typically have booked it in one of 2 ways, right? One would be they booked it with a travel agent, a travel advisor who helped get them booked on that cruise, that tour, that all-inclusive, whatever it may be. So that's one way. Or the group, you know what? They might have at the time just jumped on Google or looked up whatever.com, whatever company they wanted to travel with, and booked it on their own, right? We know all the suppliers out there, they of course they take some kind of direct business, whatever it might be, and that's fine. So, they've either booked it direct or they booked with a travel advisor. Now, here's the catch, and here's the reason why keep your antennas up and reach out to people. If you engage in a conversation with somebody, and I'll just take out of the hat, let's just say you speak to the president of a chamber of commerce, and Joe, who's the president, says, oh, sorry about that. Okay, Joe, who says, you know what? Yeah, last year we did a big cruise. We had 75 people go on it. and we booked through our travel advisor who's part of the chamber, and we're very happy with that person. Okay, thanks, Joe. Good, was just reaching out, didn't know if you're all set, but thanks anyway. Now you put that one aside, and maybe you call them back 6 months from now, a year from now, whatever it may be. And that's really a matter of personal preference and your comfort level with, how often do you want to reach out as a touch base. So that's one way of doing it. Now, there were tons of situations, Joni, where I would reach out myself, work with advisors. We reach out to these groups, and right time, right place. And it happened before where they say, you know what, Dave, you called me at the perfect time. The travel advisor I was working with, they have not called me back in 3 months, or the travel advisor, they owed me money, things got whatever, right? And we are looking to do a big group trip next year to the Canadian Rockies. I would love to speak to you because I'm done with that other travel advisor. Or if you can get me more benefits than me booking it directly with the tour operator, the cruise line, gosh, why not make these calls that you can qualify somebody within a couple of minutes and figure out what's worth your time? So, I just say call everybody, fact find, and then figure out your way from there.
Absolutely. I think that makes tons of sense too. So another question I have is, can you please give us some advice about charging fees for groups? I always charge fees and I find they help my close rate, but for a group, I am not sure how to structure that.
Sure. So with fees, and I know that's, for some it can be a touchy subject. For others, depending on what you're looking at, right? Like, how much work are you going to be putting into this group? So, some advisors, they have an upfront fee or almost like a retainer, right, for the group, and then that retainer, or at least a portion of it's going to go towards the balance of the trip, of the group trip. Some automatically, it's a planning fee where it's going to be, I'm just making this up, $50 a person, $100 a person, whatever that might be. I truly believe it's a matter of personal preference with do you want to charge fees? Do you not want to? Now, depending on what you're finding for the clients, right? Whether you found a really good aggressive group rate, or, using the tour conductor value to go ahead and offer some kind of, value add or reduced value to each and every guest. It's really a numbers game and varies by the group. If you have the ability and you have your way of charging fees, continue what works for you. If you'd rather not, don't go that direction.
That makes tons of sense as well. Good answer for that. All right, I got another one for you. Can you give more examples of number one, radio, and two, Chamber of Commerce? How do you work them?
Sure. So let's start off with radio. So many of times with radio, right, depending on the station, most likely it's going to be more your smaller radio stations, not your big name ones that are, promoted nationally. So as far as radio stations go, finding out what kind of shows do they have. Talk radio can be a big thing. Talk radio, there's a variety of different shows that you'll find there. But finding, things like come along trips. So you might have a radio DJ, you might have some kind of personality. Many of times you may dive into it, and this is something else on Perplexity, on Google. Check out, local radio stations in your area. Some of these DJs, some of these talk show hosts, they may have a following that you would not even have thought of. And I've run into this before. This is going back some years, but it was something familiar. It was like an Italian cooking radio show. So people weren't even seeing them. They weren't even smelling the food or seeing the food they just spoke about Italian food and Italian experiences. This turned into a group. I think it was in the area of about 46. It was just under 50 people that did an Italian and a Best of Italy tour with me back in the day. And it was all from a talk show host, talk radio, who had this following of like over 6,000 faithful listeners. I never heard of them. I just, through some research, the travel advisors that I knew and building the network, I came to find out about them and we closed the deal. So, sorry, going back to radio, it's finding those who are excited about travel, possibly do a come along trip, I always say. Sometimes it'll be turned back on you where they're asking you to buy ad space. They'll say, well, we'll promote travel or trips, but we want you to buy X, Y, and Z. That's where it can get expensive. That's where you have to be careful with it. So see what's in it for you. And my first piece of advice is look at the come along trips, look at, how they can maybe earn these free trips and comps and things like that. So that's radio. Joni, and the other one was Chambers, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Chambers of Commerce. One thing with Chambers of Commerce is, many of times, not all the time, but during that first call or doing some research, figure out if they already have a travel advisor partner who is a member of the chamber. Because many of times, they're not going to want 2, 3, or 4 travel agencies or travel advisor and agency owners in that chamber. And if they do, they might have their primary, most tenured advisor who, gets the stage when it comes to any kind of travel offerings. So be mindful of that. Sometimes they don't have, and this is another good opportunity. Sometimes they don't have a travel agency owner or any kind of travel industry represented within the chamber. So those ones you may find more fruitful or more worth your while. Many of these people are business owners, right? So time is not always on their side when it comes to vacations. But with that said, chambers do things to raise money and to build community in that area. So who's to say not all the business owners have to go, but they can work as an extension for friends, family, other people in the community. So with chambers, it's a matter of doing a little bit more fact finding and digging to see if it's the right fit.
Okay, great. All right. So before we we answered most of the questions. So thank you for that, Dave. And thank you everybody for putting questions in. That's awesome. I have a comment to make that somebody had shared, and I thought it was pretty cool. And then we're going to go do our prizes. All right. So the comment comes from Bob Dietrich, and he's been participating throughout the comments area, which has been great. But he says, "Nicely done, Dave. Heard things today I've not heard in other webinars before. Awesome job, my fellow ESU alumni. AI is going to be a game changer too. Thank you." So, Dave, I just wanted to share that with you because I thought that was pretty sweet. So that's just for you.
Good. It's not every day I run into a fellow warrior that were the East Stroudsburg Warriors, a fellow alumni. So thanks for the note, Bob.
Pretty cool. Yeah. All right. So anyways, he says, go Warriors. So now we'll go ahead and do prizes. All right.
All right.
So what we're going to do is, folks, you have that where you were posting those questions. For those of you who did, that is where you're going to post your answer to the questions as I provide them. And then we will go ahead and award the prizes. Okay. So that's where you will type them in. Now, on the first one, I'm going to ask the question and give the answer, but I'm going to take and these questions are from Dave, so they're not from me, they're from Dave. The first one is for one of Dave's consultations, which is invaluable, and that is going to be, we're going to take the 10th correct answer, so you better be ready to put it in there fast, folks. What is the definition of an affinity group? Go.
Tick tock, tick tock. Let's see
I
who's
got a
gonna
lot
get
of
it.
people getting it right, but I got to count now, so everyone was definitely listening to you, Dave. Okay. All right. The winner is, hold on a second. I can't read it. I'm getting too old and I need to get my glasses on. Okay. Lenny Minyard is the winner. And congratulations, Lenny. And your answer to the question is, actually, Dave, why don't you answer that question for me?
Sure thing. So affinity group is defined by a group of people linked by a common interest or purpose.
Okay, and everybody wrote that in there almost verbatim. So good job, folks. All right, and Leanie, congratulations. We'll be sending you Dave's contact, or Dave will be contacting you directly. He will have your information. Okay, so we have another one. This is for another consultation with Dave. So you get ready, folks. I'm going to take this time. I'm going to take the 15th. I'm really up in the game here. And I'm going to take the 15th one. So get ready, folks. I've got my screen cleared, ready to go. What is the name of the two online tools to help find traveling affinity groups? And
This
my
one should
question is
be,
two.
yep,
What is the name of two? Okay, so some people only put one in. You got to put them both. Okay,
gotta
counting
put them
down.
both.
Good job, folks.
And these two I shared with you on the broadcast, so hopefully you get both the ones I had shared. Pretty easy
Oh,
peasy if
this
you
is
were listening.
amazing. Okay, this is cool because guess who? Guess I'm serious. Is number 15. It's your buddy, Bob Dietrich.
It's not a
What is
setup.
the
It's not a
answer?
setup.
It's not a setup. I can't believe he was the 15th one. I mean, how weird is that? All right, so that's kind of cool. You know, sometimes things happen for a week reason, so that's awesome. Okay, so Bob, congratulations. And what is the answer, Dave?
The answer was Google and Perplexity.
And
Google
he
and
even threw
Perplexity.
another one in there. He threw in AI. So a number of people
Yeah,
threw
sure.
AI in there too. So yeah, so
Yep.
cool. So Bob, congratulations. All right, so now we're going to give away, and Bob says he feels bad. Bob, you don't need to feel bad. You honestly won that. I counted to 15. I swear to you. Okay. So now I'm going to make
Yep.
it a little bit easier for folks. I'm going to count to Okay, I think I'm just going to take my lucky number again. Sometimes I do this. I'm going to take number 7. So get ready, folks. This
Great.
is a really easy one. If you were listening throughout the entire webinar, this is a really easy one, and you can keyboard it in really, really fast. Okay. And Bob is going to buy you a beer, by the way. That's what he says. Okay. Number 3, what the question is, and this is going to be for an Amazon gift card, courtesy of Travel Professional News and the OG family, and I will be sending that to you later today, whoever wins this. What type of list will help you keep track of prospective groups? Go. Wow, we got some fast keyboarders in here. Woo,
Yes.
Lord, scary how fast they are. Okay, here we go. Number 7, Heather Shredder. Heather Shredder got it. What's the answer, Dave?
The answer is hitless.
I'm glad you were listening, Dave. Very good. I'm glad you're listening to yourself. That was absolutely correct. All right. Well, everybody, thank you. Heather, I'll be sending that to you shortly. And congratulations to you for the answer being hit list. Hey, guys, this was wonderful, everybody. It's been a great webinar. A few people have noted in here, Dave, that they're new to the industry and they so appreciated this because it really kind of helped clarify. I don't know what it is about the word affinity that a lot of people have a hard time with, and you just really broke it down for everybody today. So thank you for that. It was fantastic. Well done. Everybody, I let Dave say his goodbyes, and then we'll close out for the day. We'll see you next time, and thanks again, Dave.
Thank you, Joni, and thank you, everybody who have tuned in for today. My contact information is up there on the screen. I know I will be speaking with some of our prize winners. But, of course, if anybody has any other questions, if you want to speak affinity groups or anything about Travel Plans International, feel free to reach out. And hope to see you around. We have a lot of events going on the rest of this year. And all the best. Happy selling, everybody.
All right. Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Take care. Bye.